Okay, well, we going then? Okay, welcome to the Idaho Falls Programmers Meetup. Let's have some introductions to start with. I'm Layne Lund, and I just started here at Ascendero less than a month ago, at the beginning of August, and they have offered food for us and a place to meet, so we'll be doing it. Thanks a lot to the CEO, Alan, here. And we'll go around. Do you want to introduce yourself first, Alan?
Sure. My name's Alan Barber. I run Acantero Software. There's 3 of us here. Andy leads development, and then Layne was recently hired as one of our engineers. So it's fun to have everybody in the
How
house.
long has Ascendero been around?
I moved here from San Francisco about 2 years ago. And the first year was just kind of getting our feet underneath ourselves, and then we've been growing ever since then. So I'm probably going to hopefully bring on a couple more engineers over the next year. So.
Yeah, this September's 2 years,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's 2 years, which we're officially out of the unbelievably dangerous part of time where most companies go down in flames. So that's nice.
Alright, so it's my turn. I'm Rishi. I am like one of the veterans of this meetup here. You know, I've been here kind of since the beginning and since Layne founded it. You know, I like this group a lot. I've given a couple presentations as well. And, you know, all the presentations have been really relevant and applicable to what I do at work. And, you know, will probably help me some way down the line. I actually work at the INL. I'm you know, a programmer myself. I typically work in Java and C++.
In which group out there?
So
and
this
which company?
So for Battelle.
Okay.
And this is the Electronic Warfare Modeling and Simulation Group. So basically we write simulations for radars. Since this is being taped and it's kind of classified, I'm not going to say too much more.
I'm Matthew Klein. I've been a software developer for a decade and teach online courses remotely. It's a lot of fun.
John Cohen, software developer. Good to be here.
Okay. I'm gonna cheat. And I'm Ricky. I work as a front-end developer for RSNI. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, my bread and butter. Looking into other stuff though, like React and Node.js. We have a YouTube channel. That's why we're streaming. And that's pretty much my deal. So.
Andy,
you're next.
Oh, hi. I'm Andy. I am a software engineer and head up projects here with Michael. We put everything together, and primarily right now we're doing a lot of JavaScript front-end work and back-end with Python. But yeah, I've been doing it a long time. Love the program. And it's good to be at a programming meetup.
And I'm Sonia. Right now I'm an IT recruiter. I've been that for over 10 years. National recruiting, and we've even done blended with India and things like that. But I have an electrical engineering degree I haven't used in forever. I have an entrepreneurial mind. I have all sorts of crazy ideas. I worked at the site. I worked at NRF, Central, CPP. They probably don't even call half of them the same thing. And I worked for Lockheed, and I worked for all sorts of places. TSI, I was the application manager, and I designed code and kept the call center running. And after my boss left, I was the only one handling 3 call centers for a while. So I did list loading, ad hoc reports, you name it, I did it. But I'm sort of out of date, and I want to figure out how bad off I am and maybe get back on board, because I really like to write code. And I can be either in a team or in the corner and nobody bother me. So I'm really thrilled about the group too.
I'm Jada, I'm a systems engineer. I think I've been coming to this meetup since the beginning of this year, roughly.
We started in December, so you're more or less one of the
Veterans.
One of the veterans, one of the first members here. Yeah.
And then we got Christ from the Philippines, and a couple more. We got 5 people in the live stream right now. So cool. And is it Troni? We probably will go ahead and get to doing pull requests and stuff, but you know, if we have time or if it's included.
Yeah, that will be part of our presentation tonight. So,
Cool.
for those following online from the live stream, and for those of you here, so what we're going to start with. So I've been using Git for I can't even remember how long, 5 or 6 years, and I keep finding new things to do with it and have a lot of fun. So, but tonight we're just going to go through some of the basics. So I have my GitHub account up here. I guess I should
Let's see.
make sure the projector, everybody can see on the projector.
And if you could just speak up as much as you can.
Okay.
I have the volume up, but
I will do as best as I can with that.
Okay.
And so everybody can hear me. So the first thing we need everybody that's following along needs to do, if you don't already have a GitHub account, you need to go to github.com and sign up for an account. It's really quick.
give me just a moment here.
And maybe I should.
How's it going? Nice to see you.
We are already starting. Yeah. So you can see here on the sign up page on github.com, all you need is your username. You create a username, enter an email, and choose a password. And then it will probably will have you verify the password as well. I haven't done this for a long time.
I must have used this before.
And so what?
This is telling me I already have a login. I'm like,
What's the purpose of GitHub?
Okay, so GitHub in general is a large repository of open source software, and it's basically a social network for programmers to code socially, and it has a lot of great tools to be able to, if there's a library that you use in your own programming a lot, often they're hosted on GitHub, and then you can get the source code, and if you want to contribute to it in some way, either the documentation or the source code itself, there's a lot of tools with GitHub to be able to do that.
I might just add, if you want to use Git, GitHub is a hosted version of Git.
Right.
You're not required to use the issue tracker and other things, but it's a hosted version.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So Git that this presentation is about, that we're going to get into more directly. You don't have to have a GitHub account. The main reason that I'm using it is because we're going to create a repository that everybody will be able to contribute to and post changes on. So we'll be practicing how to use it as a team. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in to my account here. And then this projector has not the best resolution in the world. So I'm gonna create a new repository, and we'll call it Git Demo. So this is just I'm acting as the team leader here, and so as the team leader, I'm creating a new what's called a repository, which is just basically the collection of the history of changes in your code, and typically includes the most recent version. And we'll get into some more details about that in a minute. And So
Let's
I'm
see.
just going to give it a description, and then I'm also going to let GitHub create a README, one file for me as a README.
Oh, give me just a second, guys. Sorry. I'm gonna put this mic closer to you.
Okay, so we get some better reception on that.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Or, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I've created a repository here. Now, anyone that wants to, and everyone in the audience should go to this same URL, github.com/codeguru42/git-demo. And then, on the right-hand side here, there is a button that says fork. So quite often the GitHub model, this isn't necessarily required with Git, but the GitHub model, typically you fork someone else's repository, which gives you a personal copy of that repository, and that you can then do whatever you want with. And then when you make changes that you want to suggest back to the original owner, you make what's called a pull request. And we'll get into those details here in a little bit. So everyone that's participating and following along should go to this repository and fork it.
What's the fork and not clone?
Yes, just do the fork for now.
What's the
And-
difference?
So when you click on this clone button, and we'll get to that in a minute. So forking actually creates a repository for yourself on GitHub. Whereas clone, if you click on the clone button, it actually pops up a dialog box and gives you a URL so that you can download the repository to your personal machine.
So another way to think about it, I have not thought through this analogy, but let's say that you go to the library and you check out a book, and then you take it home and you write notes in it and you send it back. That's a little more like cloning, and forking is a little more like taking it to the copy machine, making your own copy, taking your copy home. Nobody else is really going to see those changes unless they ask you for your book.
That works. So typically the workflow here, typically if you're contributing to someone else's GitHub repository, is that you first fork your own copy that's still publicly available, other people can see, and then you clone it to your local machine to be able to do your work. And we'll do that here in a minute as people follow along. So the other thing, for those of you that haven't yet, the other thing we need to do is to go to git-scm.com, and somewhere on this page should be a download button. You having problems there, Jada? Okay. Wayne, she's got the password for the Wi-Fi.
Forking often happens when
Wayne needs it
disagree,
also.
and they're like, we're going to do our own thing. But it also happens when people just want to, maybe one company wants to have a specific version they work on in their company, of a larger project.
So one interesting thing about Git, and something I think you're touching on there, didn't hear the complete question, but so Git is a decentralized, distributed version control system. Other, especially older version control systems, would have a centralized repository that everybody basically worked in. So, which works fairly well for a company, but doesn't work so well for open source projects where you've got all kinds of people all around the world working on it. So, with Git, everybody has their own repository, and then you share code between repositories by pushing to another repository or pulling down from another repository. So, in order to continue with our example here, we need, for those of you that don't have it, you need to download Git. If you're on Windows, it's just an installer. Go ahead and accept all of the default settings. Just keep clicking next. if you're on a Linux or Macintosh, they're also they have you can also get Git through the various package managers available on those operating systems. But you can also download it directly from the Git official Git website. So once you have that installed, if I can find my toolbar down here. And I have it pinned to my toolbar here. Oh, I guess I could try to use my mouse. So you'll run. It comes with what they call Git Bash, which is a Linux-like. Basically, it's a Linux emulator, command line emulator, for Windows, and it's based off of the MinGW project, which has been around for quite some time. And so we will be working here with this command line as we work with our project here. How did I do that? Do you know? For the computer overall, or just for the
click on the
machine?
corner and say like edit preferences, and that will.
Okay.
So options, and then here you can change font sometimes.
Text. We can go there.
I can make it honking big.
Yeah. See how big I can make it here.
You're looking at a screen on a webcam. It's gonna be hard for you.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll bump up the font size here a little bit, a lot, so that people can see it. You think that'll be big enough?
I'm sure they'll tell them if they still
Okay.
can see it.
Yeah.
Like what?
So if anyone is having trouble seeing what's on the screen, please let us know.
Oh, that's cool. I got one on my screen too, which you can see.
Okay.
And if they don't, they'll let us know.
Okay.
So, like you said.
All right. So let's go back to our browser here, and I'll refresh here to see if. So we've got some people that have forked it. Okay. So now, once you forked it, now you have your own private GitHub. So it'll be the same URL, except it'll be your own username instead of CodeGuru42, which is my username. And so now you need to go to clone or download, and then most likely, so I have mine set up to be able to use SSH. We'll talk. And most likely you just have HTTPS. So by default, it typically looks like this. So, so when you use HTTPS, every time you interact with the GitHub, your GitHub repository, you'll have to enter your username and password. So I've created an SSH key on my local machine so that I can. All I have to do is type the password for my SSH key once, and as long as that's available, then my machine won't ask me for it again. It'll just do a key exchange instead. For our purposes tonight, we'll just do the HTTPS. It takes a little bit longer to set up SSH, but there's some help docs there. You all right?
I think the power just
I'm still
Sorry.
connected.
Okay. On her laptop.
Oh,
Her
darn it.
Her power went out. Okay. So typically on my machine, I usually have a source file or a folder just for source code. So I think on this machine, okay. Yeah, let's see if we can bump this up a little bit here.
Something I've noticed in practice is we have pretty lengthy path names, and so having a folder that's just like C:\src, that's a good idea, so that you don't run into problems with lengthy path names.
Right. So so I typically just make one folder that contains all of my source code projects. So so I happen to put it under devel and source. Sometimes I have a devel/lib as well for some libraries that I use. I don't think I have that on this machine at the moment. So then once you are in a location where you want to put your project locally, then you type git clone and I'll tab back to here. So if you clicked on the little copy button here, it copies the URL, and you can push Shift Insert to get that URL, and then hit Enter, and it'll pull down all this stuff. And so
Which I do on desktop or download stuff.
click on the copy button there.
We have a couple of people here joining us from Oklahoma. And Dylan from Florida. He's got a big YouTube channel with about 25,000 subscribers. If you've ever done Coding Tutorials 360, cool guy. You should check him out.
Okay. So if I'm going too slowly for people, let me know, and we'll try to speed this up a little bit more. So once you've cloned it, then we'll have a directory called Git Demo that actually has the README file in that I created. So I'm going to now I use Sublime Text as a text editor, so we're going to go over here to Sublime Text, and
So get our text editor out.
so yeah, open your text editor so that you can edit some documents. And
For those of you in the online chat, I'm just going to switch over to Visual Studio Code, and I can use Git right in the text editor. Actually, no, because I have PowerShell on there right now. Oops, forgot to switch it over.
so in Sublime Text 3, I'm just going to open up that whole directory so that I can have the files off here to the side. And as part of it, to kind of demonstrate what's going on here, I'm just going to create a new file. I want it to be in this directory. Okay, so I'm gonna make this a contributors file and put my username in it.
Not paying attention.
What's that?
I'm not paying attention.
Okay.
I'm paying attention to the chat.
Okay. It shouldn't take very long at all. Yeah, so Rishi here, it looks like when he clones it, it's taking some time. Oh, because it should pop open a dialog or something. It should pop open a dialog somewhere to ask for your username and password.
What are we doing here?
Is it? Okay, just Control C it and try again.
Some of those commands don't work real easily if you have multi-factor authentication turned on in GitHub.
I don't.
Okay, then I think it would work.
And you did the HTTPS URL, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's supposed to ask for your username and password unless you have something else set up. So I'm creating a contributors file in GitHub, and so if we go back to Git Bash here, so one command that's incredibly useful is Git Status. So this will show you the files that have changed or new files that aren't being tracked. So in this case, I created a new file and it's not being tracked. So the first step, and this is a typical workflow, is that once you've made some changes, created a file or made changes to existing files, first you have to add the file so that Git knows that you want to do something with it.
Is that called staging?
So that, yes, so this is we're staging. So when you add a file, it stages it so that you can then commit it to the repository and save a commit or kind of a a checkpoint of a version of your code. So we're going to add contributors to the repository, and then we will commit. And I'm also going to use the -m flag so that I can type a message for this commit.
Wait. No, don't wait for me.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing about these messages is that the longer the better, right? I mean, the more
To some extent. So and so there are some recommendations. There's no you can type pretty much whatever you want here for a message. And so if you don't do the -m flag, it will start up a text editor, which you can configure whatever text editor you want to use. By default, since we're in a Linux type environment, it'll use Vim. And if you're not familiar with Vim, it's a little hairy to try to even quit out of it. So, but it certainly, if you do any coding at all, it's good to at least learn some of the basics of Vim. And especially with Git, it allows you to edit messages. So some of the guidelines, and actually, let me pull up a PowerPoint slide, a couple of PowerPoint slides here. So, oh, I didn't even found the right one. So,
Layne, are you going to provide those slides for us?
yeah, I'll post them up on the Meetup, and I'll probably add them to this repository as well.
Files to the Meetup.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I'll share it. I'll post a link on the Meetup for wherever I post it. So this is a really great blog that I have a link for at the bottom of this slide that has some suggestions about how to about writing messages for your commits in Git. So I kind of have summarized it here. So typically you want to start with a short title that's at most 50 characters long, and then followed by a blank line. So a lot of tools like GitHub assume that the first line is a title, and so it treats it separately from the rest of the text. And then the rest of the text can just be paragraphs. You typically want to limit to 72 characters per line, because a lot of tools will line wrap it about that line length. And especially if you're contributing to another group's work, you want to have a really good in-depth description about what changes you have made in that particular commit and why. What the purpose of a lot of your changes are. And then this blog also suggests using the imperative voice. So you should say fix bug rather than fixed or fixing bug. I think part of the reason for that is it's a lot more terse. You have 2 or 3 less characters, so you can fit your description in the 50 character limit that you should use especially for the title. For the description part, be as verbose as you need to. Of course, it's still technical writing, so follow all good technical writing type conventions as well, to be able to explain what you're doing. Another thing too is most commit messages that I make don't have very long, usually don't even have the following paragraphs, because I try to follow the general guideline of making small commits very often. And so they should be very small pieces of code. Of course, you don't want to put stuff in that breaks your entire code base and doesn't even compile, but it should be very, very fine-tuned and small commits, which will make it easier as you're merging or dealing with any merge conflicts as well. And we can talk some more about that a little bit later. So going back to our example, so what I would like everyone to do, so I already created my contributors, and so the last thing I want to do is I want to push what I've changed to my GitHub. And so there's a special name for that, for basically a shorthand for that, the URL that was created when you clone, and it's called origin. So if you do git push origin, that will push back to the repository which you cloned from.
So anyone that's not familiar with a decentralized type of source control system. All the changes he's made so far have been committed to his local machine. Now he's saying there's another copy. If the other copy that's in the cloud, if you will, if it disappeared, things would be fine because he has it on his machine. But he's saying, I want to update that because everybody else is going to be replicating it.
Yep. So I want to share my changes with everyone else.
Origin is default, right?
And so origin is a default name. There's really nothing special about it. It's called a remote, and you can create remotes with any name you want that's associated with the URL. And so in fact, we'll do that here shortly. Because, for example, I can get back to the browser here. So I see we've got the last I refreshed this page, 7 people have cloned the repository. So I'm going to go look at who has cloned it, and I'll pick on Layne here. I'll go to members because that'll give me a link directly to everyone's repository. So I'll go to Layne's repository.
I did it.
And scroll down. And so, as before, as Layne already used the clone button here to clone it for himself, but I want to see what his repository is like. So I'm going to copy the URL for his address, and I'm going to go ahead and use the SSH since I have that set up for my machine here. And then, so, kind of the idea behind this is everybody else is going to need to add my repository. So since I'm the project manager, everybody is going to share with my repository. So I'm using Layne's as an example, but you'll need to go to mine here in a minute. So I want to add a remote for Layne's repository. And I'm going to call it Layne. And then I'm going to paste in the URL for his repository.
You need to insert an add in between the remote.
Oh, yep. Thank you. So we need to do Git Remote Add. And then I give it a name. So this is the alias basically on my local machine for this big long URL that is Layne's GitHub repository. And then I can fetch the changes that he's made. So I'm going to do git fetch Layne.
Which we didn't see, did we?
What's that?
You just had your initial commit, right?
No, he made a commit already. Yep. So if you notice, there's a new branch called master that posts to Layne master. So if I do git branch, this will show just my local branches. So I have my own master. I want to make a new branch to see what changes Layne made and potentially merge them into my changes. So I'm going to create a new branch called Layne master. So, and when we'll deal with branching a lot more here, and it looks like Layne kind of worked ahead because it wanted people to create a new branch. But we'll get into that. So then I can check out this new branch that I made. And so this branch named Layne master is just a local branch. It's a local history basically on my machine. And I created based off of my own master. So it also contains my changes. So if I do git log, and I just want to see a single line, this will show that I just have the 2 commits that I made. So even though, as you can see on the command line here, that it says Layne master, it still only has the same 2 commits that I have. So if I want to get the commit, so Layne had already made some changes. So there's on Layne's GitHub here, he already made a change to add himself as a contributor. So this is going to be a little fun. So I want to merge my current local Layne master with Wayne's changes. And so Wayne's changes are on a branch called Wayne/master. So it's the name of the remote that I created earlier, followed by a slash, followed by the branch that's in Wayne's repository. And so it gives me some conflicts because I created a contributors file with my name in it, and then Wayne created a file with his name in it, and it doesn't know which is which, right? So I'm going to have to come in here, and so if we look at the if we look at the current version in a text editor, it'll show head, which is the current commit on my local machine, and it'll show the changes that I made, and then it shows this line of equal signs and the changes that Wayne made, along with the name of the branch that those changes came from later. So I'm going to fix up these conflicts, and I want both of us as contributors, so I'm going to just remove the annotations that get added in and leave both myself and Wayne here. And then I'll go back to the command line, and I'll first do a git status to see where I'm at. So git status says there's unmerged paths, and it says basically it's telling us that there was conflicts the last time I tried to do a merge, and it says that both repositories added this contributors file. And so I made the changes to it that I want so that it works out the way we want it to. So I can add contributors back to I can stage contributors, and then I can commit it. And this time I'm just going to use the text editor. And so as we see that there's a default message that says there was a merge, and it has the conflicts. The message for the conflicts are commented out here with a hash sign, so these won't actually appear in your final commit message. Typically this is used to show information as you're doing things. So I'm okay with this merge message, so I will write and quit. So this is Vim on Windows. And then if we do git log dash one line, we'll see that we now have 3 commits. So what I would like everyone to do, if you have so first of all, what I would like you to do is add a remote for my Code Guru repository. So going back to the browser, everyone should go back to the github.com/codeguru42 git demo. Come over to the clone or download.
So now you want us to ignore
Yep.
the fork we created?
No,
Work out of
no,
the repo?
no. So what we're going to do is, so you have your own fork. So the thing here is, so I made some changes to the original repository, but neither your local copy nor your fork have those changes. So
Did you push those back to the origin?
yes, I did. So in order to get up to date with the original repository, my original repository, we need to create a remote similar to what I did with Wayne's. And so to do that, we'll create you need to go to my repository and clone or copy the URL here and follow the same steps as I did before, or similar to what I did with Wayne's.
Wayne, your PR has a conflicting file now.
It does.
Did you make a pull request as well?
I did.
So you're working ahead on
Yeah.
it. All right.
It's okay.
So you can do Git Remote Add Code Guru. and paste the URL.
I guess I am a little bit curious what all we're going to cover because we're going through a lot of detail
Okay.
here. But do you expect to discuss like the virtues of the way that you've set this up? Is this the way that you do things here?
Not yet. So we typically work with a single repository that everybody pushes to. So this is the model, and because I'm using GitHub, this is the model that's used a lot by contributing with open source projects, especially on Git.
So I don't know because there are lots of projects there, but I would expect this would be for different companies that aren't competing, but they're not working really closely together. And I would think like what Wayne did, where he submits a pull request, that's more of a thing that I see on GitHub.
Right. So okay. So maybe I'm doing this a little bit out of order, but so even if you're doing pull requests, so while you're working on if you're working on code in your repository and you push it up to yours, and then you do a pull request, someone else might have been doing work already, and there has already been a pull request.
Sure.
Someone else did a pull request on the main repository, and it was accepted. And possibly that causes conflicts with the changes that you've made.
Often, if you have a large project with lots of moving parts.
Right. So the idea here then is, like for example, I added the contributors file, which has already made some conflicts like we saw, and probably I've got it out of order trying to do the merge with Wayne's code. So the idea here is that I want everyone to add a remote for my repository so that you can get the most recent version of my repository to merge in with whatever work you're doing.
Sure. And while people are doing that, I'm just curious about everyone's approach, because I would think in a single company, especially in a single team, that you would just branch, making feature branches if you needed out of the exact same repository, or potentially work out of a development branch if you're not making a lot of changes that are going to break other people's work.
Right.
And so I'm just curious about the forking
and that's
prospect here.
And that's something I will get into, and maybe with the forking I've made it more complicated than necessary.
So I think it kind of depends though, right? Like, so the pull request mechanism is good for accountability, right? So somebody has to merge that pull request.
And
whereas
even
if
in
somebody has write permissions to the original repo, your employees can just push stuff in, and then all of a sudden everybody goes, what happened, right?
And
So
even working within a single repository, you can make pull requests from, like you said, feature branches or whatever, right? Having forks is, like you said, is probably more common with like an open source project where there's many different companies and individuals working on it that aren't necessarily all within the same organization.
Okay. And did you want to add something else?
No.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the Git flows, which was in the description of the meeting, that requires pull requests. Is that?
Typically, so Git flow is a model for branching, which I've barely just even touched on. So we've been using the so I had the master branch, and I didn't explain that too much, and then I created a new branch to see what changes Wayne had made. So Git flow is so this is basically what we were talking about just a minute ago, is that there's basically two kind of competing different ways to use Git. And one is, especially if it's in a single company that has complete control over what's going on, there's usually just a single repository, and everybody clones that repository locally and then pushes their changes to it. Typically that still uses branches. The other one is what the demonstration I've kind of started here is everybody forks a repository and has so on GitHub everybody has their own public version of the repository, and then they clone from that and then do pull requests. So in a single repository you can still make pull requests between branches, and like Nick said, that's for code reviews and having some kind of quality control on what's going on. And then and if you have a forked repository like we're doing on GitHub, then pull requests are issued from a branch in your fork to the main repository. So does that
Yeah,
touch on
I mean,
what
I'm
you're
just
talking
discussing it because I expected you to talk
Yeah.
talk about the decision at a high level.
On a
Here
higher
you're
level.
really showing us how to do it.
Yeah.
So, we didn't actually ask who all has used Git, but I was guessing half the group's used it for years and half the group is new to it. So, I don't know about that.
Yeah, good point. I skipped that part, didn't I? So how many of you are familiar with version control in general? Nine. Okay. And Git specifically? Everyone the same?
I've seen it used here and there, but I don't
But
know
not
anything
really?
else about it.
Okay. Okay. So then, hopefully this graphic kind of shows up. It's small. So I'll post this link. I'll post this these slides and this link on our Meetup, and I'll probably just upload it to the GitHub repository as well, so that it's available. So this is what's called Git flow, and I wonder if I can zoom this in at all. Okay, there, that's a little bit better. So typically, starting on the right, typically in a model it's called Git flow that is very common. And this is all within a single repository, but you can adapt it to have in the forked repositories as well. So typically there's a master branch, which is the stable version of the software and is tagged at various points where the releases are made. And then you also will have a develop branch, which is more towards the left side of the screen. And the master and develop branch are basically infinite branches. They're around forever. All the other branches that are made will be, so maybe I should back up. So a branch is basically a marker in time of the changes that you've made. It's basically, it's a marker at the tip, at the most recent commit of a series of changes. So think of it like if you're a video gamer, commits are checkpoints throughout the game. And a branch is basically your most recent checkpoint. And Git allows you to go back and forth through those checkpoints very easily. These two branches, master and developer, are typically around forever. We can create other branches, so like say we want to work on a new feature. So we can create a feature branch that typically has an appropriate name for whatever we're working on, and create commits. And then we'll get into what pull requests are about, but eventually you'll do a pull request or a merge. So towards the bottom of what I have zoomed here, you see the arrow from the pink ones over to the yellow ones. So that feature is finished as far as everybody can tell. Of course, there's probably bugs in there. And then it gets merged back to the develop branch. And eventually, as we see down here, the develop branch gets merged back into master once we're ready to make a release. And then quite often in this Git flow model, we'll have there might be some hot fixes. So there might be a critical issue that we need to create a new branch directly off of master, and then it gets merged directly back into master for a new release. And then so it looks like this example is there's some beta releases for 0.1 and 0.2, and then as we get closer and ready for a 1.0 release, we'll create a specific branch just for the release, and the develop gets merged into, and then that eventually gets merged into both master and develop branches. And then there will be more details. I'll post this link at this envi.com. It goes into this model in a lot more detail. So let's so if everybody's had time to to create a remote. So what I would like you to do then, so I'm going to go ahead and check out my master branch again. So master is just the default name for a branch, and is shown in the Git flow model that I was saying there. It's commonly used as the stable version of the software. So once you're here, then you can get the changes from my repo. So if you've created a remote called CodeGuru42, you can do git pull CodeGuru42 and then master. And so this, of course, I'm pulling from my own repository, and but because it's CodeGuru42 instead of origin, it still says it's a new branch. But for mine, since that's from my own repository and I have those changes, it says it's already up to date. So if everyone else does that, then
What are we supposed to do?
so if you've created the remote, then pull from that remote, pull the master branch from the CodeGuru42 remote.
What does checkout do?
Okay, so checkout is how we switch, just switches between branches.
Oh.
So I was on, I created a Wayne master branch to see what Wayne's stuff was, and now I'm back on my master branch for my own personal stuff changes. So that's why I had to do the checkout because of what I had done earlier. So everyone else won't have to do the checkout. You'll just need to do the Git Remote Add CodeGuru42 and then this URL that you should copy from GitHub, and then git pull CodeGuru42 master, and that will get you the changes. That'll get you the new file contributors. Then the next thing I would like you to do is open that contributors file and add your username to it. And so notice here, Wayne's name is not in it because on my master branch, I don't have those changes with Wayne's name added. We'll get up to date with that in a minute. But what I would like is everyone to open the contributors file and add their name. After you've pulled it from my repository.
I'm getting a permission denied.
Did you have the exact same folder name as what you used for your fork? It's conflicting that way?
Probably.
Did it ask for your username and password?
No.
Yours was public.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what's
It
the
wouldn't ask.
Yeah, you should.
No, I should ask him.
But for polls, I don't
What was
remember
the
if it
remote
asked
add
to
for
be
your
authenticated.
Git Remote Add, CodeGuru.
CodeGuru42. That's the name of the remote.
.com.
And then you should just copy and paste the URL from the browser here. So if you go to CodeGuru42.com or github.com/CodeGuru42/gitdemo.
Did you add the remote with Git or with HTTPS?
So so did you do the SSH or
I did it.
HTTPS? Okay. And then copy the URL here and then paste it into the command line. Did you have a question, Ricky?
I think so. Okay, so put my name in there. Am I supposed to do anything else so far?
Save the file
Saved it.
and then add and commit it to
Okay.
your local repo. Yeah, I hadn't got to that point.
Okay, good. I thought
So-
I'm just.
Okay, yeah. So once you make the changes to the contributors file, and this might get a little hairy in a minute because we're going to have some merge conflicts. Then you should do the git add contributors and then git commit and either the -m with a message or edit it in Vim. This is typically the easiest, especially for a beginner.
We won't be able to push that up though, I don't think.
Yeah, you should be able to.
To your repo?
Not to my repo. So your origin, each of your origin is your own personal fork. So that's one reason to have the fork, is because otherwise I would have to give permissions to people to be able to push to my repository. So once you've done that, then you can do git push origin master. So origin is the name of the repo, which is your personal GitHub repository, and then master is the name of the current branch. And I skipped a step there because I wanted people to create a new branch. And for me, it's going to say everything's up to date. For everybody else, it should have some indication that something has been uploaded. Then from your own repository, you'll probably actually see a line here that shows that you pushed a new, and it has a little shortcut of creating a new pull request. It's something similar to this, but I'm doing a pull request with my own repository, so this is not initially the best example.
Okay.
So you can click on the create pull request button,
New pull request.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then create pull request.
and then if you want to type a message in, there's usually a message box to type some more information. So typically a pull request will be a series of several commits. Here we're just each making a single commit that doesn't have much changes. And so when you create a pull request, there will be a text edit to be able to kind of summarize all the changes that you've made over all of the commits that you're requesting to be merged into the main repository. So then you can click on, so the create pull request button should be enabled for everyone else, and you can click on it.
It is not.
So you might need to click, okay, so
Can you not issue a pull request from the command line?
okay, yeah. So no, so you're fine. So here, okay. So if you just clicked on the create pull request button like I did, this is doing a pull request within that same repository. So if you want to go to a different repository, you need to click on compare across forks. Okay, and I'll use.
That's a really interesting question. Is a pull request a GitHub concept as opposed to a Git concept?
Yeah, it's more and other online like Git repositories use it. Yeah, so
Git SCM, you probably can't do that on the command line.
Right.
But you could do it using their tools potentially.
Right. Yeah, and so like Bitbucket has pull requests as well. It's basically a competitor for GitHub, but yeah, pull requests are kind of a higher level. What was the word you used? Concept. Yeah, that's not directly in Git. So I'll use Andy's as an example.
GitHub has a. That's not true.
What's that?
I must have done something wrong.
Did you push your changes to your GitHub?
I did.
Okay. So this is when it says there isn't anything to compare. This is saying that Andy has all of the changes that I have.
Okay, let's see.
He may have made additional changes that I don't have, but that's not going to show up here.
Oh, but I mean,
because I'm making a pull request from my repository to Andy's in this case, right?
So who's Steel Helion?
Steel Hellion is me. It's a reference to Judas Priest.
So it looks like you have sent a request over to my repository. Is that intentional?
No, it wasn't. My bad.
Okay, so everyone else should in this base fork select the Code Guru repository. So you'll be able to see everybody else's that is forked on from this.
That's right.
Okay, and I'm going to use and as an example because it's difficult to do a pull request to myself. But here it's not even very helpful because Andy already has all of my changes. So it says there isn't anything to compare. So if I have something new that Andy doesn't, then it will show up here.
How do you do the inverse of that?
That's when you make a pull request to me. That's
So
how
you
that's
as
how
the-
I will see the inverse.
But you
of
as
it.
the owner of the original repo.
So I could make a pull request if I want. I probably could put so I could put Andy's over
Okay,
here,
I see. I think.
and then so this shows the change. This will show the changes that Andy has made
Oh, I see. So you have to
that I don't have.
pick between source and okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the head fork is the one that has the changes that are being requested to put into the base fork. Typically you don't. Typically the head fork will be your own repository and the base fork will be someone else's.
Okay.
But I did it kind of the other way around here to illustrate what's going on. So this is actually the same as. So typically this is the way Andy would make a pull request, is by having my repository as the base fork and his as the head fork. And then there's a box to give it a title and more descriptive comments below here. So I'm not going to submit this. If I filled this out, then I could create a pull request. I'll let Andy go ahead and do that. So I would like everyone to create pull requests. It looks like we've already got 3, but
There was something a while ago.
yep. So everybody else can go ahead and create some pull requests. So I will go in here, and since we already looked at Wayne's, so if we look at Wayne's, it looks like it's going to allow me to merge, which is strange. I was expecting it to make conflict.
Well, I already fixed my
Oh,
conflict.
because
If you want to see some conflict, I was going to say,
Okay.
add one of the others first. Maybe
Okay,
that third
yeah.
one,
Yeah.
and then come back and
Yeah,
probably
so-
conflict. But you
okay.
could do the same thing by adding his now, and then there'll be a conflict on the third one.
Okay, so that one doesn't have a conflict.
If you, this adds a file, so you won't
Okay,
actually see a conflict.
that one added a new one. Okay.
If you add one of
So-
those other 2, and then go back to add the second, merge the second pull
Oh,
request, then you should see a
there'll
conflict.
probably be a conflict. Okay. Did you, Ricky? Did you?
Just click on this.
Okay.
conflict
Okay.
tab.
Actually, let's go back to Wayne's for a minute. Or well, it doesn't matter which one. So under the pull request, so notice that right here it lists the commits that he's made, and at the top here there's a couple of tabs. We can see more detail about the commits, and it shows times and dates, and then we can also see this. So this is the most useful one, is it shows the changes that were actually made. And so Wayne on his end, so earlier I was showing how to deal with the merge conflicts. Wayne already on his end fixed the merge conflict so that he can merge in with mine. So let's go ahead and go back to the
I don't
conversation,
have any conflicts.
and we'll accept his merge request, his pull request. And so now notice as I've merged the pull request here, this only updates my public repository on GitHub. So I want to be able to see those changes in my own master branch. So I will go back to the command line here, and I'm on the master branch. So I can, to double check, I'll do Git Status, and it says I am on branch master, and there's nothing to commit. So I'm up to date as far as my local copies. But I need to pull from my origin the master branch. So this will update from the GitHub. And so as you see here, there it shows that there's been some changes made and that the master branch has changed. So we'll go, we'll do a git log to see that we have the merge from the pull request and as well as the other changes that Wayne had made. And then if we look in the text editor, we should see Wayne's name.
Ta-da.
So let's go back to GitHub for a minute. You know, looks like we've got a couple of other people have made pull requests, and we'll see here that Andy's pull request created a conflict.
It said it didn't on mine.
Okay, so it didn't
But he just made another
because
change.
you probably did it before I made the pull request.
So if you
Before I merged the pull request.
if you pull right now, you should see that same conflict.
Okay. So GitHub has a nice button over here to resolve conflicts. Oh, and okay, you can actually do it locally. So, but I don't want to do that. So, what I would like you to do, so I'm going to leave a comment for Andy. Please resolve the merge conflicts. And so Andy, with his merge conflicts, he can so he should already have the Code Guru 42 remote added. Excuse me. And he can pull down, so on his machine he should be able to pull down the changes from the Git. So he should do something like git pull Code Guru 42 origin. And that will pull including the merge, the pull request that I already merged into his local repository.
Can you show how to update a fork from your?
Yep. So that's where we'll go next. That's the next thing. So did you do that, Andy?
Yeah, I need to commit my merge real quick.
Okay.
Include merge.
So that potentially could have some merge conflicts that he needs to sort out, like we did earlier with Wayne's. And then once he does that, then he can do git push origin master. So this will update your own fork, your local or your public fork. And GitHub automatically will show what you push to master.
Let's see if it did.
To the pull request. And so I actually even got a email notice.
Fancy.
And I refreshed the page, or actually I don't think the refresh was necessary. So it shows that, so here you see where my comment was to resolve the merge conflicts, and he went ahead and did it. Okay. So then we'll accept his pull request. And we'll go look at everybody else's. Oh, that's the commits. So, looks like someone here, Mudnug. Is that you? Mm-hmm. Alright, so he just created a new file. And so we'll go ahead and merge that one in. And now Ricky's got a conflict, probably because he did the same thing, adding his name to the existing contributors file.
I guess the main lesson there is to sort things out so you're not all working in the same file.
Yeah. So here, my example probably wasn't the best because everybody's editing the same file and the same lines in that file. So if in a long source code file, if someone is editing on line 100 and someone's editing on line 20, Git sorts that all out.
Okay.
For usually.
You still have to either run merge or rebase, but it's
Right.
able to automatically merge.
Right.
Hold on. So if I
So we'll have Ricky here
fix the conflicts.
work on his conflicts. So you'll need to pull down from the Code Guru remote.
Git pull.
Git pull Code Guru 42. Did you add the remote already?
I think so.
And then master.
I don't know. Got like people telling me about all these other things. Like, okay, let's see. Okay, and then what do I do?
So you can use merge tools. So like
Master merging. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it
And
has
then
that right now.
Go in your editor or whatever to
Okay.
this.
Oh, I
to
see it.
figure out
Okay.
which-
Cool. So it shows them. And so I need to move my name down. Sorry. I need to hold on.
So you're using some other tool than just your text editor?
No, I just don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. See what you got on your screen.
It was up here.
Okay. So you need to remove the markers here.
So move these.
So just get rid of those altogether. That whole line.
the best place to wash your hands, just down the hall.
The
down
rest
to the right.
the restrooms are at the top.
And we're
of the
gonna go
stairs.
here.
Yep, and remove that, and remove this as well. So the lines with the greater than signs, equal signs, and less than signs are when you're doing a conflict resolution or a merge conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Those are showing you where the where the
Okay.
conflicts are at, and so those lines you want to remove because they're not part of your actual
So
source
go ahead
code.
and update. Git add.
Git add, and you could just do git add dot or git add
Yeah.
contributors.
That's what I use all
Layne,
the
would you
time.
toss me a water, please?
Git commit.
Thank you.
And then git commit dash m, and then quote and send the message.
Uh-oh. I have unmerged files.
Did you add them?
No. Hold on, both modified.
Yeah, so you need to do the git add
Git add.
and then contributors.
Yeah.
And hit enter.
Done. Git commit. Message. Okay. Let's fix them up in the work tree. Committing is not possible because you have unmerged files. Hint, fix them up in the work tree and then use
So
git.
So do git status.
Done it.
What does it say?
Both modified. Git contributors. So git add. I don't know.
Not adding. That's weird. Git status again.
Did I save? No. I don't know what I did. I ruined it.
I'm not sure either. So Ricky's having a problem where he does the git add command, but it's not adding it to the index.
my
or
fault.
It's not staging it.
Oh, you want to see?
So
No,
I'm not. Sure, what's
What do
that?
you want from me?
I'm just watching, but
Oh.
I wanted to see anything specific.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know what's going on here.
Git.
Yeah, he
Do
was
git
at. You
status.
did git add readme. Did you edit readme
hold
or
on.
did anyone?
So you need to add
contributors.
Yeah.
Okay, so cat contributors.
Okay.
This.
Yep.
What is this
Open
doing?
this
So,
Open it in the text
you're
editor.
ready. You
No, it's just going to show you what's happened
the
here.
lead, your own
Okay,
version
so
of
now
the
it's cool. So
file.
just do git add contributors.
So that which conflicted with the README file that I
Mm.
created. Right? And so he's having a similar thing, but with a
Okay.
different file.
Okay.
And when he
Git
adds
status.
that file, it's still
Oh, you, I believe that you added,
My own file.
yeah. So you've got to add this contributors here, right?
I guess.
But he has.
He has this.
Because he doesn't get at dot.
Oh. You can tear off the lid on
What
one
is
of those
going on
boxes.
here?
The lid.
I did something. Did I don't know. I ruined it.
I'm not sure either.
So
Dude.
we'll take
Can you do? What happened?
maybe take some
What-
time to learn that. We're
How did you not?
going quite a bit longer than I
This
planned.
one- That's my whole group.
And digging into some more detail. So
Did we
I
not
think
spell
we'll
it or something?
wrap it up here, and maybe to have time for one or two questions if anyone has some
So
any other questions.
I'm still curious about the fork. I don't know if you can answer that in a
Okay.
minute, but if you've got two different forks and you want to, so I forked from your
So
repository,
unsatisfying.
and now I want to update with all this new contributor information
Yeah.
that's
Uh-huh.
committed there. How do I do that?
Okay, so that's what we were doing earlier. So
Hold on, Senator.
so
I'll
once
get
I
to your
make the
question.
merge request, I have some changes on my fork, or my original repository, right? That aren't in your fork. So the only way, or the best way,
That's alright. You know what?
the way that GitHub suggests is you pull
I learned
the
something, I
changes
guess.
from my repository down to your local repository,
Sometimes
and
we
then
push
push them
this.
from your local repository.
Yeah.
up to your-
Yeah.
So there's not some way to do that on GitHub.
You can do it with pull request. You could do a pull request
I've been
straight between the
staring
two.
at that page for a long time and I don't see. So this is my repo.
Uh-huh.
So when I hit new pull request, it says you can
Or
either
nobody
compare
knows how a
forks
change gets
or you
through,
can compare.
why we lost
And
that
it says
piece
there
of
isn't
work.
anything to compare.
Okay.
It says
So,
this is
so,
all
so
up
this
to
is
date.
saying that your changes here are up to date with what I have.
You work at ICCU.
So go back to that compare across forks.
You use it to header on the ICCU website.
So now I have reversed it. Apparently, so now I can create a pull request. Here.
Right. So this is creating a pull request from my repository to your repository.
Yeah, it's weird that when you hit compare, yeah, it's weird that it doesn't do that automatically. But
Well,
since we're
typically
staring at it.
typically pull requests are the other direction. You've made changes and you want to give them to me. And so you have to make a request that I pull them from you.
Yeah, I really want to squash these down. They're like 14 commits.
Yeah.
Just having
Yeah,
to
and I didn't get into the hairiness of making sure kind
But
of
it's nice to get into.
cleaning up the commits because we're going pretty long here.
Okay, that was it.
Okay.
So are we? Is that our meetup for the week?
Yep. So that's all I've got.
All right. Yeah.
We'll,
Thanks for presenting and.
Should we
maybe
applaud?
do a little bit
Yeah,
more
for sure.
about this. Yeah.
Okay.
Layne,
Uh-huh.
let me know where you posted, and I'll post my presentations to the same place.
Okay. For this, I'll probably just put my
So
stuff
thanks.
up on that repo because that's what people have access to know immediately. I might actually
Tell
also
everyone
put it
goodbye
on
or something.
Thanks for coming. Yes, and farewell.